article entitled "Why Judge Boasberg's Deportation Order is Invalid, Legally Invalid," be placed in the record, and that the Harvard Law Review article entitled "District Court Reforms, Nationwide Injunctions," be placed in the record. Without objection, so ordered. And we now go to the ranking member, Mr. Johnson, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm reminded of the quote that goes something like, "When the law is not on your side, argue the facts. And when the facts are not on your side, argue the law. And when neither is on your side, then pound the table." Well, Trump doesn't have the facts or the law on his side. And so with this exercise today, he is vicariously pounding the table. Professor Shaw, President Trump has targeted and attacked some very wealthy and powerful entities to send a message to the less powerful. Trump has attacked Columbia University. He has attacked the white shoe, silk stocking law firms like Paul Weiss and Skadden Arps. These powerful, wealthy entities can afford to sue to protect their interest and our rule of law. But instead, they chose to lay down and get steamrolled by the bully. Professor Shaw, how does laying down and getting steamrolled compromise the rule of law and undermine our democracy?
Let me just say that, there have been targeted entities, right, including a number of law firms that have, in fact, not laid down, that are, in fact, taking a strong position of resistance to what they believe to be the unlawful components of some of the targeting orders. So law firms including WilmerHale, Jenner & Block, Perkins Coie, have made their responses and their views of the impermissibility of the targeting of law firms for no reason other than their decision to take on disfavored representations and to advance legal arguments that the president has personally objected to and sometimes been on the receiving end of. And so, I do think that calling out clearly unlawful executive action is critically important, particularly for entities with resources and stature. And I think that it encourages the targeting in unlawful ways for institutions to refuse to take a stand. I think that the orders targeting law firms are clearly unlawful. I think that some judges have already so found, and I think that the judges that rule on those orders will continue to find that. And the last thing I'll say is I think that law firms that have decided not to fight and that are complying haven't bought themselves any security necessarily. I'm not sure there's any guarantee that they won't be subject to further targeting simply because they have acquiesced in sometimes coercive terms in the first instance.
Yeah, when the bully knows that he can bully you, then he's going to continue bullying you until you stand up. And so I'm glad that these other law firms and other academic institutions have and are standing up. What would happen to access to justice for the least of these if these very wealthy and powerful entities that are being targeted today, if each and every one of them laid down and just allowed themselves to be steamrolled?
I think there could be a chilling effect in the willingness of law firms to take on disfavored representations. The targeting has not been limited to law firms either, right? There has been an effort to suggest that sanctions will be sought by the Department of Justice against nonprofits and other legal actors that have engaged in litigation against the administration. And so it does seem quite clearly designed to reduce the amount of courageous litigation against and challenges to executive action. And so, I think that the potential costs for the rule of law are, incalculable.
Yeah, because it's based on the adversarial system. And if you wipe out the adversaries, then you wipe out the adversarial system or the adversary system.
I think that's right, that attacks on, look, lawyers are not always popular, right? So attacking lawyers is not something that everyone is always going to object to, but judges need lawyers to present arguments to them, and our system of justice and the rule of law requires lawyers to take on representations, including potentially unpopular representations. So I do not think these attacks on white shoe law firms should be understood as just about white shoe law firms, I do think they are attacks on the very idea of access to justice and to the rule of law.
And when you attack, in addition to the lawyers, you attack the judges and claim that they need to be impeached, not for committing high crimes and misdemeanors, but for simply ruling in a way that is against the bully. What impact does that have on our justice system and our democracy?
I worry that the intent there is the same, to basically have a chilling effect on the willingness of judges to rule against the administration. In the same way, I think part of the intent of these executive orders is to create a climate of fear and intimidation and to disincentivize taking on representations, including against the federal government. So I think the intended effect is likely the same.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I yield back.
And yields back. We now go to the gentleman from Kentucky, Mr. Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This hearing reminds me of a breakfast